Hello everybody. The purpose of this video is a demonstration of how to migrate from Gina over to Everquest log parser. Everquest log parser, of course, has a lot of extra functions that Gina does not have. So this is primarily only about how to get your trigger files from Gina over to Everquest log parser. So if you're a person that has used Gina, you're probably familiar with how to view all of your triggers, how to edit them, how to turn them on, turn them off, that sort of thing. A lot of people only share triggers in Gina by using the quick share function, by sending a person a tell or broadcasting a message in guild chat or something like that. Another functional way of being able to export your trigger files and also be able to easily back them up is to export them, like I'm doing right now, to a Gina package file. All you have to do is just point to a location on your computer, pick a file name, hit save, and that's it. You can take that file and you can directly import it into the trigger manager of Everquest log parser. If you have not personally used the trigger manager for Everquest log parser, I will take a moment to walk you through how to add a character. It's actually pretty straightforward. In the manage characters selection, you press add, type in a character name, point to the log file, choose which voice you want to use that you have saved on your computer, and choose the speed of the voice rate that you want for that character, and hit save. You'll then notice that your new character exists here and that is not checked by default, meaning that Everquest log parser is not currently watching that character for any events. Just click in it with a check mark, and if you have already had trigger packages installed, you will see all of your current triggers. None of them are enabled by default for a new character. You would just want to click the circle for which selections you make. So then all you have to do is really click in whatever subfolder of the trigger files you want to add them into and select import, not export, I do apologize, but import, and then navigate to the actual Gina package file, and that's it. You are almost all the way done. You'll see that the triggers are obviously not enabled because there's no box selected there, but you just enable the ones that you want, and then you're done. Now, a couple other really specific notes that I will mention here is that Everquest log parser does actually have additional functions that Gina does not have, such as different styles of implementing things. And it also has, in my opinion, a much better help system for identifying what a particular field is. For example, in the enable timer, there's an explanation in this section below of what that particular field is for that will oftentimes be able to answer any questions they may have. And you'll see some selections that you could toggle for if you wanted to either play a sound in your computer, which I have not personally done, but I'm sure somewhere there's a way to change the sound that it reads from, or text to speak, which is mostly what I use, or either a audio alert, or I should say a text alert, or a timer bar. I'm not personally familiar with this particular package because I haven't really looked at it yet, but this is just a RAID package that was shared from someone recently, since we're almost ready to start the Underfoot expansion. But as a random example here, this is the search pattern, and that variable for S, of course, is the name of any character, or I should say any variable technically. In this context, it refers to a character. So what it will read out is explosion on that character name, get out. Personally, I think this should probably be changed to something like maybe get away from that person, or maybe even just delete it entirely, but that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is pretty much already complete at this step. Some other quick tips that I will point out while we are at it. Everquest log parser, I mentioned it has some functions that Gina does not. In the triggers quick share log, if a person is sending you a tell or a message in RAID about a trigger package, it will actually store that message in the trigger log. So you can manually add it if you like. If you don't like Everquest log parser automatically importing them into your trigger files, which I would of course not recommend. I have not sent any events to my file yet in my logs, so Let's try that really quick. So if I right-click the trigger file that I want to be able to use quick share, that is the context the Everquest log parser produces, which is slightly different than Gina, of course, because it is, after all, a different program. But again, Everquest log parser will work with incoming Gina packages. So if you're wanting to use the quick share function from Everquest log parser to another Everquest log parser user via a message in say or in RAID say or in tell or whatever, you can use that function by right-clicking whatever folders you want to share, select quick share. It will import that text onto your clipboard. It will show that you've created that share key in your quick share log. I just sent obviously that in a tell to myself. So we'll see a new entry for that quick share file. Now, personally, I have Everquest log parser set up to not automatically import trigger files from anybody because obviously I don't want random triggers in my package. But if I wanted to, all I would have to do is select import. And then I will get the same kind of prompt as you would normally, which I could either merge, select it to a new folder, or cancel the request. What I really like about this is that if a person shares a package of files and you missed it, say you were away from the keyboard and you go back into the quick share log, you can still import that share. So you no longer have to ask the person to redo it. That's just one of the many advantages Everquest log parser has on this aspect. But I will mention that as far as I know, an Everquest log parser user cannot use quick share to send packages to a Gina user, obviously because they're two different programs. But it is compatible with receiving share files or, as I demonstrated earlier, package files from a Gina user. And obviously, if you are using Everquest log parser, you are able to export to your own trigger files. Which is a great way to share them on Discord or to archive them just in case you want to make a backup. It's just a really quick way to do that. What I will mention also, if you're a first-time user of Everquest log parser as it relates to triggers, you will probably not have any overlays established. An overlay defines where a particular timer bar or a text alert is displayed on your screen. That's actually not part of what is shared in Gina. So in order to manage that, you want to do a couple things. First thing would be to establish an overlay, which you do by selecting new and then selecting if you want to make a text overlay or a timer overlay. A text overlay is quite simply where it just displays the text on the screen and then it fades away after a defined amount of seconds. And a timer overlay displays a timer instead. And there's various types of timers. There's a countdown timer and there's a progress timer, which is one that starts at 0 and it goes up. And there's also a fast timer, which personally I don't use, but it's also there as a function. Once you have an overlay created, which you could use as few as one or two of them, if you set a particular area as a default, that means that if the package file does not have a pre-selection of what window it will go into, it will automatically go into that overlay. For example, I have selected the rate emotes timer, and that is checked for the default overlay, meaning that if it's checked, this overlay will be used as a default overlay when no other overlays are assigned. There can only be one default text overlay and one default timer overlay. What that refers to is any particular trigger. I'm just going to grab ones from the new file I was shared. Is that you'll see that there is no assigned text and no assigned timer overlay. And this particular trigger displays text and it has a countdown timer, so it has one of each. This is a countdown timer of 15 seconds. The timer name would say your character name, get out, explosion, and it would also put this message in text. Personally, I'm not a fan of having both, but obviously you can edit them however you like, and that will automatically go into that section. So in the rate emotes timer, you'll notice there are some settings for the color, the font, the size, and manual numbers for where it's positioned, but don't get scared. you can press preview overlay and we'll bring up a window very similar to Gina that allows you to customize the size of it, where it's positioned, and you just hit save position. Or if you need to, because the window you want to save is too small, you can also just press the preview overlay button and it will have the same effect. But that is pretty much all you really should ever need to know about how to switch from Gina over to Everquest Log Parser. Obviously, there's some more advanced functions about the specifics of using timers and various things you could do, which is not the point of this video, but I think most people will be able to use this as an instruction to how to migrate from Everquest Log Parser to Gina. That is all I have. Thank you so much and have a great Thanksgiving.